Welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Romano. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the mindset of a billionaire. I have done a lot of research over my lifetime, and I noticed something very, very different about these type of people. But before we continue the video, please remember to do thumbs up. It's right there, and subscribe to my channel, please. It will really help me out if you do that. I provide all this information for free. I'm not selling one course or two courses for thousands of dollars. I'm simply over here on YouTube, and I want to educate the public on what I know and what I experience. Thank you so much. The mindset of a billionaire is very different to other people. And I feel that somehow these type of people, they remove their blocks in their mind. The ability to always think outside of the box. I'm not talking about being creative and dyeing your hair hot pink and putting on stilettos. Oh, I'm talking about really being creative and reanalyzing every little situation. What I've realized is that it's not that they go to an Ivy League school. It's not that they're all perfect in every aspect of their life. They've simply stumbled upon an ability to remove their mental blocks. Not that they were born like that, some were maybe, or some people after they're homeless, they somehow give up on everything and they're like, what the hell, let me try it. It's that type of ability. For example, Cornelius Vanderbilt started out in a shipping company that he established. He borrowed the money from his mother to buy the boat, a tiny little boat as a young kid, and he started shipping products across the river. And whatever the obstacle was, he somehow got around it and improved it. For example, later in his life, he started purchasing river boats and realizing that every time he wanted to go down the river, in those days, they used river boats because there was no railroad at that time, and there was no highways or cars. This is the 1800s, early 1800s. So it was horse and buggy, and so it was faster to go down a river in a riverboat. However, he realized that it was very boring. He bought a riverboat for very cheap, an old one, and he put a restaurant as well as a band and a casino. So he took advantage of all three aspects. And because of that, he grew and grew and grew to the point where he could now venture off into another industry, and that would have been the railroad. So he was responsible later in his life to create the biggest railroad company that there was. And because of his wealth, when he died, he was over $100 million back in the 1800s. And of course, when he gave the money, 90% of it to his oldest son, the railroad industry continued to grow. And so that's how the son raised it to 200 million or 300 million. Cornelius Vanderbilt was only good at what he knew. Another person is Andrew Carnegie, also Henry Phipps. They were both in the steel industry, and they somehow improved the steel industry on making steel. At a time when you started to have the railroad, you needed steel for that. You needed steel for shipping because ships were now being produced out of steel, not wood. And of course, then you had in the late 1800s, the buildings started to increase in floors, as well as the 1900s, the skyscrapers. So the steel industry became very wealthy, as well as you had John D. Rockefeller. He was also a person that you couldn't say no to. And what I noticed about all these people, and I could actually go on and on with the famous people that I've met. For example, the mortgage company that I met, the owner was actually homeless, and he gave up on society until he read a magazine about mortgage school. He went to mortgage school, which was only a couple of sessions, And the outcome to that is that he started in '08 when you needed to refinance your mortgage because interest rates were going down. So it was a perfect timing. He got rid of his mental blocks. He just went and did it. And there's another person called Brett Cardone. He's a public speaker. And last year he bought a private jet, around $40 to $50 million, that type of jet. Now, he happened to have an alcohol or drug addiction, and somehow he woke up one day and said, no more. And he changed his life. So all these people, whether it was John D. Rockefeller, he was a shoe shiner when he was younger. He didn't go to college. Cornelius Vanderbilt didn't go to college. Henry Phipps, Andrew Carnegie. The list goes on and on and on. These people did not go to college because college was not pushed into their face. And it was very hard to go to college back then. It costed a lot of money compared to what people actually made. Only very wealthy people went to college. But most kids dropped out of high school before they even went, because they needed to work to make money. And so all these people, it's not that they educated themselves on all these concepts that we learn in college. Yes, if you want to become a medical doctor, you have to go to college. If you want to become an accountant, yes, you have to go to college. If you want to become a professor, yes, you have to go to college. But to be a business person, to own a business, you don't need a college degree for that. And for example, I have a video that I posted on, the title is about raising capital for hedge funds and why it is so lucrative. Well, for that type of industry, you don't even need a college degree, and you don't need a lot of money, and you don't need to be rich or connected to the rich. Sometimes it's having ambition to propel yourself to get rid of those mental blocks. Like, for example, when I told a relative of mine that I completed a PhD, she's related through marriage. And what she said was, she laughed hysterical and she said, "Oh yeah, right." She didn't believe me. It's because in her own mind, she has mental blocks that she's incapable of doing that because she surrounded herself through these mental blocks. So the entrepreneurs, the successful people, they take a project, whether they're an employee at a company and they're a manager, or they're a scientist, or whatever it is, and they say, I could do better than this. I could figure it out. I could figure out the puzzle in this situation. Of course, those people have a long-term memory and they're highly visual to begin with. They don't realize that. A short-term memory gives you the ability to take tests and to pass with hundreds. So you eventually go to the best schools, you get the best job, etc. But you don't really change anything in your life. So once you get rid of your mental blocks, you'll become successful. For example, Brett Cardone, the public speaker on YouTube, as well as he sells courses how to do real estate, he mentioned something very important to me. It was actually on a YouTube video that I watched. He was buying a private jet, and he was walking us through why he bought that private jet. He said to his accountant 2 weeks before the end of the year, "How do I get out of paying all these taxes?" I think he had to pay several millions of dollars in tax, and he couldn't justify accepting the fact that he had to pay that tax according to what his accountant told him. Now, an accountant is only good at what they do, and that's number crunching for taxes and calculations, etc. But they're not equipped at really reducing people's taxes. Because the tax code is so huge that most of their clients are probably not billionaires or millionaires. And so that's why it's up to you to really dig deep on what you have to learn. Now, he says, I'm sure there's some tax deduction. What do I need to buy to reduce my taxes? So he was educated because he's always looking to learn something. And what did he realize? He realized if he bought a private jet, that is a tax deduction because you could write it off on your taxes. 2 weeks later, by the end of the year, he owned a private jet and he was able to reduce his taxes by literally 100%. Because the private jet is worth millions, and the taxation that he probably had to pay to justify a $40 million jet or $30 million jet, you have to have at least $5 to $10 million in taxes that you have to pay every year. That's how I calculate it in a way. Maybe he was making $40 million a year or $30 million a year or even $100 million a year. So that's how he reopened his mind. He thought out of the box and he did what he had to do. And I really like that story. And now there's another story which I really appreciate, is that someone else also, and so that's how to think outside the box. That is the mind of a billionaire and the billionaire mindset. Another person that I've read about and I listened to on YouTube is Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban said, "It is easy to make $1 billion, but it's very hard to keep it." And how he made his first million, I think that the story is this is correct, but he started a software company and he sold it to many companies. He was making a lot of money and then he sold that company to another company. He made a lot of money on that. So again, Mark Cuban, because he is a billionaire, but it doesn't mean that just because you're a billionaire, you have a billionaire mindset. He realized that it could be done. Someone like the owner of Tesla, Elon Musk, again, another billionaire mindset. You give him a project and he says, yes, we could do it. And he got rid of his mental blocks that a lot of us have. For example, I had a mental block because I didn't want to do YouTube because I put so many mental blocks in my mind about I didn't have a camera. I didn't know how to edit the film. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do a market niche of. I didn't know what my market niche would be. All these types of issues. And finally, 5 years later, I started YouTube last year. Oh, no, actually in 2021. And I got rid of all that. I'm not afraid of talking in front of a camera anymore. I had to get over that as well. I'm not afraid of answering certain questions. I got over that. I've learned so much on how to edit videos, even how to market a YouTube video. That's really hard. There's many videos that you could listen to, but yet nothing worked until finally I realized it was Google Ads that really work. And so these types of things you have to learn. And what I realized is I said that when I started, I said I was not going to give up. And I was going to figure out everything I had to do to make my YouTube channel successful. And look what I did. I learned how to market. I learned how to do every aspect of it myself. I've hired people to do that, but it seemed like they never really helped me. Normally, I would just lose my money, basically. It was like I was wasting my real hard-earned money on this until I finally said, enough is enough. I found what I needed and I did it. And so that's what you could use in your life. You don't have to be a millionaire or a billionaire, but you just simply have to get rid of your mental blocks, realize that you are capable because you're human, and also remember, what you attract in life is who you are. If you are a superstar, such as Harrison Ford, maybe he attracts superstars. Or if you are, if your friends are a billionaire, maybe you will become a billionaire. And this is very important because what your friends are is who you become and who you turn into. And so that's my edge for today. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please remember to subscribe and do thumbs up. It's right there. It doesn't hurt, but it will really help me out. Please do that. Thank you so much.